so as I said, let's start some child pose. So we have the knees and the ankles maybe hip distance apart, and we can stack the hands to rest the forehead down. And we're just going to take a minute here, not even a full minute, just a few moments, just to settle in, closing the eyes. And you just stay there in child pose for a few moments just to arrive on the mat. And if we take a moment to let the weight of the body transfer into the floor. And just by coincidence or by chance, I heard a live interview with a soul coach, Jerry Hussey, this morning, and he invited listeners to think what advice they would give to their 8-year-old self. So it's never too late. Maybe there's something around, you know what, you really are enough. You are lovely. Just go for it. See what springs to mind. But it's never too late to speak to us as the 8-year-old does. So let's just take a moment to think about something kind you'd say to yourself. And just let that thought marinate in your brain. And talking of brain, I'm now going to make you think. We're going to come on to all fours. Well, keep it easy. Initially, we're just going to do a cat-cow, but then we're going to do a kind of wagging the tail, and then we're going to combine the two. So we untuck the toes. Let's go straight into a cat-cow. So we breathe in and look up, and then breathing out, rounding the back. Big yawn for the shoulder blades. Stretch that wide into the chest. Let's have one more like this. Breathing in as we look up. Breathing out to round the back. Now, if I contract, if I mirror you, this right side of the waist, I'll look back at the right hip and towards the right little toe. And then if we switch to the other side, so you can see this is the action, kind of wagging your tail and looking at your tail. So we'll just take a few moments to feel that sway of the hips and looking back. So it's a contraction, we're actively contracting one side of the waist, stretching the other, taking it side to side. You're already thinking, how are we going to combine cat-cow with wagging the tail? Well, so we don't overthink it, it's actually easier than we think. So we'll start with an arching cat, so chin to chest. And now wag your tail to the right, so right hip to the right. And then arch the spine up into cow pose and take it to the other side, wagging and looking to the left and then rounding. So keep going. So if I had said you're turning your hips and your head and your spine all in opposite circles, you'd have got in a pickle. But if you start to feel, actually, we're just moving as you would imagine you would move. Chin to chest, arching cat, taking it to a wagging the tail, up to a cow pose, wagging the tail to the other side, and then arching the back. So go through this a couple of times. So there's something around moving within the joints for this session today. And then let's change the direction. So we wag our tail to the right, then round the back, to the left, and then look up, taking those circles in the other direction. And you know, if it doesn't look quite as smooth, it doesn't matter. We're just moving lots of joints, and the idea of kind of trying to combine the wagging the tail and the cat-cow will keep your brain focused on your body and movements. Let's have this as the last one. If you need to rest out the wrists, just sit back on your heels and shake out the wrists a little bit. We're going to come on to a down dog. So let's tuck the toes under and send the hips back. So initially keeping the knees bent and thinking about a long spine. In this position, we can start to wag the tail. You might look under one armpit to your hip and then the other. So you're starting to swivel on the balls of the feet, pressing the hands into the floor, and then let's start to stretch out the legs, but then continue that pedaling through from one foot to the other. So we start to get a little bit of a stretch down the spine. Take it side to side, We're going to come into a Ragdoll Fold in a moment. So just enjoy the last few pedals through, one foot to the other, before we start to step the feet in towards the hands. So when you're ready, let's step the feet forwards, soften the knees, and come into a Ragdoll Fold. Again, just shake out or make fists for the ankles to ease out. If your fingers touch the floor, great. Otherwise, bend the knees and take that pedaling action through the feet. So we're stepping, bending one knee, sinking into one hip, side to side. You'll start to feel we are wagging the tail. Again, that same action, we're just taking it in a different position. You take and stretch as deeply as you wish, maybe looking under one armpit, to side, and then we're rolling up through the spine. So knees soft, head last to come up, rebuild the spine, slowly make your way up, and at the top, roll shoulders back and down. Now let's go on to the arms. If we start with your right arm, use your left hand to hold the top of the shoulder. When we talk about arm circles, sometimes we fling, we take it too far, and then we're going to damage the rotator cuff muscles. So let's just think about scaling the movement down and see what happens with the arms. When we lift this right palm up, we'll have the palm facing up, we're lifting the arm forwards. We'll get to a certain point where we can't go any further. So then we have to internally rotate. I'm going to come all the way forward so you can see. So as you come forwards, the palms up, and then we start to internally rotate. So we're lifting up as the arm goes back, we're pushing down. So if internal external rotation doesn't really make sense or mean anything to you, let's think about palm up, and then we switch palm down. The reason we've got a hand on the shoulder is so that we can start to feel, is the shoulder comfortable with that range of movement? Let's breathe in as we lift, breathe out as you press back and down. So do scale down the range of movements if there's lots of clicking going on. I want you to find a gliding movement so we come back to happy shoulders and really nourish that joint. Twice more in this direction. You go at your own pace. But let's take that movement back. So leaving the back of the hand and then palm down. So rolling in and out. Just move as the arm feels comfortable. So palm in and then palm up. All right, let's try to the other side. So palm up, and then we internally rotate and take the arm back. Breathe in as the arm comes up, breathe out, relaxing that shoulder back and down. Sometimes we force or we try to force that arm through a circle with an external rotation, and it's actually not how we're made, how the joint is designed to work. Finding a nice range of movement where it feels like it's gliding, there's less clicking and disruption within that compact joint. We change the direction, so don't overthink it. Just allow the palm to flow in whichever direction it feels right. Less clicking, more of a gliding movement. If you try in opposite directions, don't overthink it. So one arm comes forwards, the other back. So I'm not even going to say when the up palm faces forwards, up, back, just move with a gliding. So make the circles on the sidewall smaller and find a gliding movement with the shoulders relaxing down. Let's change the direction. Try to keep some engagement in your core. So that means the front ribs together, bottom slightly tucked. And then shrug out the arms. Wonderful. Let's go on to the rest of the body. Let's have the feet right under the hips. Take a deep breath in and stretch overhead. And as we breathe out, chin to chest, round through the back, hold the backs of the legs and come into that Ragdoll Fold. We're coming into a chair to start to work those knees. So let's drive the weight through the heels of the feet, bend the knees, hips low, and come up into this chair pose. Let's take time to zip those ribs together, navel to spine, long right to the crown of the head. Now we're going to isometrically strengthen the knees by pressing into the outsides of the knees without them moving. So isometric strengthening in terms of we're activating the muscles but without leading to movements. Shoulders down, and use this pressure of the knees pressing into the hands into the knees to start to activate those leg muscles. Obviously your arms are working too. With that strength and sustained pressure on the outer knees, start to identify where your pelvic floor is and engage. Shoulders down, think about layers of core muscles. So we think about core muscular strength as being from the pelvic floor right to the diaphragms and everything in between. So the back, see if we can get a bit of engagement in the back muscles, around that whole cylinder, below from the shoulder, from the ribs down, squeeze. Now we're going to allow the hands to win. Slowly the knees come in, we roll to the inner edge of the feet. Then the knees win, we start to roll to the outer edge. So let's go for 6 in total, 5 more. Squeeze, the hands win, press open, the knees win. So feel that weight transferring to the inner edge of the feet, and then the outer. You're in charge of how much weight, pressure on the knees. So more pressure, more shaking, more strenuous work in the arms and the legs. Navel to spine, keep the spine long. 1 more of these. And then we'll roll up through the spine, arms overhead. Take a big stretch and a steeple top, side to side bend. So legs straight now. And we're off again. So let's lower the arms, shrug out the shoulders. Deep breath in, stretch overhead. Breathe out and fold. Ragdoll fold. Bow the head and pause. So here, still feet hip distance apart. Sweep the parallel arms forwards and find your chair. Bottom tuck, zip in, front ribs, navel to spine. This time, inner thigh. So hold, scoop your fingers on the insides of the knees, shoulders down, bottom tucked, and let's isometrically strengthen again around the knees. So neither the knees nor the fingers win initially. Let's now find the activation of the muscles from your pelvic floor right to the diaphragm, everything in between. Pressing the big toes, little toes, heels evenly into the floor. We should feel the muscles all around your legs, your hips activating. Again, let's allow the hands to win. So the knees will open wide. We roll out to the outer edge. Then let the knees win. Squeezing together. So keep going. Again, about 6 in total, but don't worry if you're not in time with me. Shoulders down, so that we don't overround the back here. See if you can have a little bit of engagement between the shoulder blades, yet we still keep the front ribs together. So I kind of lied when I said the core muscles engaged through. It's actually the whole of your trunk should be working and fired up. So shoulders down. The whole of that trunk cylinder, think about everything engaging, but keeping really long through the spine. So we're strengthening all of those stabilizers in the ankles, knees, hips, and that will benefit a few of us here. So working slowly, mindfully, not overdoing it. Amazing, release out, arms overhead, take a big stretch overhead, take side to side bend, so stretching the sides of the body. Now we'll work specifically with the hips. So let's lower the arms, have a shrug out before we move on. So if we think about placing the weight into the left foot, engage the core, we're going to lift the right knee up. So you might want to hold the wall or the back of a chair here. Ideally, we want to start with the ankle knee in line with the center of the hip joint. Now, if we open the knee out as far as we can, we then have that external rotation of the hip. When we can't go any further, think about internally rotating the hip. So that means keeping the knee out wide, but knee down, ankle lifts. When we can't go any further, we'll take the leg back. So the hip extends back. And when we can't go much further, bend the standing leg. Both knees a little bit bent, then come to one side. And then we'll return to standing. We're going to do that on the other side and keep going. Weight into your right foot, bottom slightly tucked, so we've got that core engagement. Head back in line with the spine. Let's lift that left knee. Pause, keep that engagement in your cylinder, fired up. Externally or opening the hip first of all. Internally rotating. When we can't go any further, starting to extend the hip back. Soften the standing knee and come back to standing. We're going to take it side to side. So into the first leg, feel the transference of weight. Head back in line with the back of the pelvis, lifting the right knee. Feel like your core muscles are reeling the knee up. Then your glutes firing up to open the hip. Feeling the lift in the ankle. Taking the leg behind you, softening the knee. And right away to the other side. Transference of weight, the knee lifts. So chin's tucked into the chest. So the ears will be in line with the shoulders. Softening your standing leg. And return. How are we doing? You can keep your fingers around your belly just to check your TBA stay fired up. We're aiming to keep really still and keep that stacked alignment in the upper body. We think of exploring the hip joint, but the same way we were moving with the arm, the humerus in the scapular joint, we want to find a nice gliding movement. So we're not forcing, it's almost like resetting to a nice gliding, more functional pattern of movement within the hip. Obviously working all of the muscles to strengthen the hip, but I want us to come away from this feeling the shoulders feel soft, the hip feels nice and mobile. So everything working here. We're using everything to keep the core upright, your body upright with the core fired up. We're gliding, so there's no sudden movements. We're using even the tiny muscles of the body to help stabilize. Everything we did for the knee and ankle, those muscles, or the brain's already thinking about those muscles and helping to smooth out this movement. I'm going to go for one more each leg. Shoulders back and down, maybe the arms are wide. That can help with balance. Internally rotating, if you're in line with me, don't worry if you're not. A little bit of a softening in the knee. Last leg, or even yourself out left and right. Amazing, wonderful. Shake out the legs. We're going to come down to the floor. So let's take a little roll down, maybe a little shimmy, zigzag on the way down. And as soon as you're ready, join me on the floor, feet out in front of you. We'll take a twist. Let's hook the forearm of your right hand, your right arm around the knee, sitting up really tall. With your left arm, we're going to open the chest wide. Use your eyeballs to look all the way around, bringing out the waist as far as you can go, and then return. We've got 5 more of these. Isometrically strengthening here as well. The knees are pushing into the elbow and to the fingers. So breathe in, opening wide, long spine, swiveling around, open, thumb to the ceiling, and close. 4 more, shoulders down. Think about how you could engage the muscles on the front and the back of the body. So getting out of the way of thinking core muscles just on the front of the body. See if we can activate muscles on the back of the body, sometimes slightly tucking the bottom under. We engage the core muscles, but we also get a bit of length in the lower spine. Let's see if we can engage the muscles on the sides of the waist to get the shoulders down away from the ears. Are we pushing your knees out wide to work those leg muscles and build on that strengthening we did standing up. Once more on this side, we take it to the other side. So shoulder down, swiveling, head, neck, shoulders, ribs all the way around, and then we take it straight to the other side. Clasp around the outer knee, push the knees out wide, make the arm and the legs work. Breathe in and open. So my thumb to the ceiling, opening up wide. Eyeballs, everything all the way around, breathing out to return. Always come into a nice reset, long spine. Breathe in and open, shoulders down, spine long. 4 more. Wonderful. Sometimes it's helpful to think about how can I increase the distance between bra strap or a top and my armpits. So think about opening there. Get a little pec stretch. Nearly there. Plug the feet into the floor, open the knees wide, and then restrict that movement of the knees with a strong left arm. Let's have one more. Shoulders down, long spine, twist, work the waist. And then come center. Hands behind you, just windscreen wiper out the knees. Okay, core. Let's place the feet back in the starting position. Arms in front of you, shoulders down. Now if we lean back, at a certain point, we'll feel the core muscles kick in to stop us from falling back. Try to avoid a C curve, so let's keep the spine long. Chins into the chest, long spine right into the neck. Let's take a moment to close the front ribs together. Shoulders back. A little bit of shaking is fine. Let's come back to this exercise I've done with a few of you. Let's allow the front middle fingers to tap in front of you. We're leaning back now, open. Thumb overhead to touch the wall behind. This little finger to the floor. Stretch in opposite directions. And then tap together, shoulders down. Let's take it to the other side. Thumb overhead. A little bit of shaking is fine. We shouldn't feel any discomfort in the lower back because we're zipping in and up. Think about your pelvic floor to the diaphragm. Shoulders down away from the ears. Think about your chest space shining up to the ceiling. Open, wide. So that kind of sheet of core muscle, or your abdominal muscles attached to it, the TBAs, your innermost abdominal muscles engaging to feel that little bit of shake. That's absolutely fine, as long as there's nothing like pain. You can hear my voice is beginning to shake. Zipping in, lengthen the spine. Last couple, you can do it. You can always back off. We can do this from a more upright position. Or knowing we've got the last few rounds, you might lean back a little bit further, avoiding collapsing, nearly there. Long spine. You may find your hip flexors are on fire here. That's all part of the engagement. Work through the body, whole body working. Last set each side. Shoulders down, reaching one arm forwards, one arm back. Last side. Press, lengthen. And then hug your knees and just have a little rock on the spine. Brilliant. Let's roll onto your side. Knees out in front. If you wish, you can try having both arms overhead. So knees bent in front of you. Let's lift the top leg. And now that movement of externally rotating the hip, knee to the ceiling. Knees parallel, shins parallel and close. So there's one. Lift, open the hip and close. Let's breathe in to lift. Breathe out to press, close. So imagine there's a cushion between your knees. When you breathe out, find some resistance, squeeze, all your core muscles pulled in. Get used to Ujjayi breath, use your strong breath here. Let's have one more of these. And squeeze, clam closed. Wonderful. Top knee in front, your bottom knee behind. We're stacking the arms in front and we're clamming open the chest. Now, the first time you do this, like I've had head on the floor, allow your knee to lift so you're not overstraining into a deep twist and then clamming closed. So with practice, the head stays on the floor. We're just rolling on the back of the head and opening. Over time, the knee might stay on the floor. You might get two shoulder blades to the floor, but initially find your way into a nice level twist for the spine. But also we're moving so that the weight of the body kind of melts into the floor. This also might be quite a deep opening for your shoulder, that top shoulder as we open. It's a big yawning movement. This is where we don't want to press or strain the knee to stay on the floor. Let's have one more here, and then we're going to take that clam movement to the other side. So big yawn, open, stretch arms in separate directions. We're really at the waist. And then return. We'll flip on to the other side. So you can hold the head in the hands or take the arms overhead. This just gives us a sense of length through the body. Knees are bent in front of you, and we could be here. But let's have a go here. Let's float the top knee up, then knee to the ceiling, return and close. We'll breathe in to lift. Throughout, I have a sustained contraction in my core so that the upper body doesn't waver forwards and backwards. Chin still tucked into the chest. No matter what position we're in, we've got a long line at the back of the neck. So if I was lying against a wall, there'd be no movement. We're trying to isolate this movement to the femur within the hip joint. Using the strength of the out breath and that imaginary resistance to strengthen the hip muscles. Squeeze close. Breathe in and open. Breathe out to close. Nearly there. One more of these, and then for that kind of cat pulling its tail position, the top knee is on the floor, the bottom knee is further behind you. So this is probably the cat pulling its tail. You'd actually hold the back ankle. But we're going to take the arms in front, yawn into an opening. Remember to allow that top knee to open initially, just so we feel our way into this final twist, clam opening for the chest. And then breathe out to close. So we'll stay here, keep going. In the time of your own breath, or just at a pace where you can feel the weight of the head transferring into the floor. If there's a gap between your head and the floor, it's a good idea to put a cushion underneath the head. Otherwise, we're holding the head in place, and that's a lot of weight for the neck muscles. And ideally, we want to, just for this simple exercise, gliding exercise, we want to relax the muscles of the neck. So we have a soft jaw, kind of a sense of melting into the floor. So minimal lift from the floor. Feel like everything's 10 times as heavy. And if you're fine with the spine, we can work both shoulder blades to the floor, the knee towards the floor. But definitely no forcing. So as with those hip and arm movements, we want to find a gliding movement where we can own the movement and all the joints, all the muscles are working well to support a gliding, supported movement. Have two more on this side and then hug the knees into the chest. So this should be quite soothing for the neck and the shoulder joint. So maybe one you want to come back to another time. When you're ready, let's take the knees into the chest, have a little rock on the spine, massaging out the back. And when you're ready, you can rock on up or come onto one side. That's already 30 minutes. And